What's up, people? CJ Kid 1231 here again with the movie review that I've been promising for so long, damn near 3 years, and finally decided to deliver. All right, now before we get into this whole review, let me just get into some backstory why it took so long. Friday the 13th is by far my favorite slasher series. Jason's my favorite horror icon and whatnot. However, one of the reasons, unfortunately, why it took this long is because the first film in the series isn't one of my favorites. It's actually one that I don't even really go back to that often. Because look, for me, when I watch Friday the 13th, I come and watch it for Jason, obviously. And he's not the first film, not to take away anything that is done, all its influences or anything like that. It's just, as a film, like, to me, it's just... like, it's really hard to kind of like sit through for me, just for me. We're gonna go into why I feel that way, but I just, as far as like a film in the Friday the 13th franchise, for all its accolades, in my personal opinion, I don't really put it up. I mean, could it possibly be top 5? Maybe. I never really ranked it like that before. Like, I know my probably top 2 favorite Fridays are, but I have never like ranked the whole list entire, and I was never able to because, again, I never revisited it. In order to do that, you have to have like all the movies fresh in your mind to give like a true judgment, a true list and whatnot. So anyway, I got my list and notes here. It's like 2 pages, just because it took me, I had to write this down, otherwise I wasn't going to remember anything off this damn film. So now, as for the film, Friday the 13th, it came out in 1980, directed by Sean S. Cunningham and by Victor Miller. And around this time, Sean S. Cunningham was actually trying to get a soccer TV family show off, but in order to get that moving, he wanted to keep his name in the spotlight, in the buzz somehow. And he thought, let's make a horror movie. And of course, at the time, Halloween, that came out 2 years previous, was amazing. It was legendary, and it blew up at the box office, and it was independent. So he decided to go ahead and try to make his version of that and try to go copy for copy what Halloween did, except what he didn't know, what he did was created his own, they essentially created their own tropes that other horror films in the future would follow instead. I know that was kind of confusing, but basically he tried to copy things off of Halloween, what he thought Halloween was doing, what he thought that certain scenes meant, but ended up creating tropes within trying to copy that. And the stuff that he was trying to copy that he did, when people in the future would go to try to copy what he did in this film. Scratch all that, let's get into the film. Okay, so I guess one other thing I want to touch on before we get into the film is Tom Savini. You remember him from Dawn of the Dead? He was one of the bikers with the machete. He actually did special effects, and that's also another revolutionary thing that happened with this film too, is that this film really like brought gore effects into the horror genre like big time, especially with how graphic they were and how they were being displayed. We weren't seeing anything like that before this film, and if you were, it didn't get that much attention. Again, this was distributed by Paramount, so we're 3 minutes in, but let's get into the film. So we have a cast of characters here. There's Annie, there's Ned, who's the clown, Jack, who's the cool guy, played by Kevin Bacon, Marcy, who's like the fun girl. Then you have Steve, who I just call Mustache Man, because that's the only that's the only thing I really know him as, is Mustache Man. Bill, who's more so plays the mysterious guy. Brenda, who's the calm and collected woman. Alice, who's the main hero. And Pamela, who's the main villain. And let's not forget Crazy Ralph. But anyways, this film starts out with a homage almost to Jaws. You know, they're on around a bonfire, they're singing, and then eventually a girl and a guy go away to basically, you know, get naughty, have sex and whatnot in the cabin. And then the point of view person, the person is walking towards them, and we're seeing it through the point of view, which, by the way, the main killer in this whole film is all POV shots. Like, When the killer's there, they show him through the POV shot, like you are the killer throughout this whole film. So the killer goes and kills the woman. He kills the man, stabs the man, and then goes to kill for the woman. And then it whitens out into the iconic title screen, Friday the 13th, which, by the way, there's a bunch of whiteouts in this. I think there's like 2 or 3 whiteouts in this damn movie. Just saying. Like, I don't know what, I guess it was an artistic choice to go in, but, you know. I guess. I mean, it's just that when it whitens out, it's really, really bright. You have to squint a little bit, so. So anyways, that happens. And then, let me see, I'm looking at my notes right now. Oh yeah, so we introduced to a girl named Annie, who is apparently the cook, who is going to go to Crystal Lake because they're refurbishing it and they're reopening it after it being closed for so many years due to all the things that Annie gets told by the driver that takes her to Crystal Lake, which is that, you know, it's death occurs, the water in the lake was poisoned, mysterious fires and murders and stuff like that. By the way, around this time we also get introduced to Crazy Ralph, who is funny to say the least, just based off the way he appears in this film, and also for the 2 times that he rides away in his more like a bicycle. Ridiculous. It's funny. I'm sorry, this is very late that I'm doing this, so please bear with me if I'm yawning at any point in time in this video, but Crazy Ralph is indeed crazy. He lives up to his name. He's the You're All Doomed guy, the original You're All Doomed guy from the series. So we have Crazy Ralph, right? And we have the guy that takes Annie all the way to Crystal Lake and tells the story. Now, meanwhile, while that's going on, we also have on the other side of the, not other side of the road, but I guess it's somewhere on the other side of the town, heading to the same place, Ned, Marcy, and Jack. And they're all driving, and they're just basically fooling around. And it's a whole drawn-out scene of them driving all the way to Crystal Lake with this, like, farm music, like, bum, 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 bum. Like, it was just weird. So that's another thing about this film. This film does drag on with certain scenes of just normality. I guess some people might appreciate that, but to me it's just like, okay, let's get it rolling. So then after a while, they go and drive, they arrive there, and then they meet up with the guy Steve, who's chopping on wood. And then eventually everybody except Annie, Annie's still not there, she's driving with the guy. You know, they're all talking. He's talking to the basically camp counselors that are going to refurbish the place and all that, what they need to do and stuff, and then we're also introduced to the main character Alice. And there's a certain scene where I think Alice is trying to fix something on the roof, and that a whole scene plays out where it seems like Steve and Alice had something before or prior to the events of this film, and he even tries to get one more chance for her. And she says, fine, you know, whatever, okay, we'll have one more chance. Like, they plan a date or something. And then after that, he gathers them around one more time to tell them what they need to do, everybody's role, and to make sure that they tell Annie when she gets there that she needs to head right to the kitchen and start cooking for the kids and whatnot. And the thunderstorm's going to come later, so he went out to go get supplies. You don't really see him back until, like, the end of the film, but he's gone. Steve is nowhere to be in sight. So, after that, they start, some of them start fooling around. I believe it was Marcy and Jack, they're talking, doing something. I think they were actually they were actually hanging out on docks or something. They were hanging out on the docks. And they were just playing it. Like, again, a lot of this film, there's just a lot of scenes of just normality and stuff, and then just seeing the kids shoot the shit, in other words, for like a couple of scenes. And there's a scene where a police car comes in. I think it's Marcy and Jack, and also Ned running around doing an Indian thing, where he has an Indian hat on and he's just running around having fun. And it was just funny to me because the cop comes and he calls Ned coochies or something like that. Like coochie or coachies? Like, what the hell is a coochies? I mean, I know what coochie is, but I'm saying that back in 1980, I don't know if it meant the same thing. But he also, and it's like Ned is like just fucking with this cop, and then he tells him to sit on it, Tonto. Like, this has to be 80s slang or something like that, or a reference to something else, because I've never heard, like, this made me laugh when I saw this scene. So anyways, so they're dealing with the cop, and the cop, I guess, tells them to make sure they're not fooling around or something like that. And the cop leaves, and then Alice is doing something. I guess she's getting something ready. I think she's gonna make something herself. Like, I think she was trying to make food. So then she goes into the pantry or the closet, and fucking Crazy Ralph is there. And he spooks her because he's there, like, and he just is in there to tell her, to just pop out and tell her that she's doomed, that the camp's cursed and everything. And then everybody, the rest of the counselors come in to try to tell him. I think it was Millie, Bill, and Brenda, I believe, that they kind of help him, tell him to get out. So he gets out and he rides away in his bicycle, but my whole time I'm thinking, how fucking long was he in there just to come out and spook her like that? Crazy Ralph, yeah. Crazy indeed. Like I said, he does earn the title to his name. And as I said, a lot of atmosphere in this film, a lot of just beautiful shots of nature. Sometimes it feels like a documentary, the way like some of the nature scenes are shot in this film. Like it'll show like the bushes and the fucking leaves and the trees bristling about against the wind, and the waves coming off the lake onto the shore. Sometimes it shows the moon and the clouds smoking around the image of the moon. There's a lot of those shots, and I think that's quite beautiful. So from an artistic standpoint, very good. Again, I apologize, guys. It's like 11 or something, but anyhow. So there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful atmospheric nature shots in here. I guess that's a plus if that's what you're looking for. Yeah, and then Ned is just hanging around while he sees Marcy and Jack, they're just kissing, and from afar it almost seems like he's kind of not envious, but a little bit sad that he doesn't have a female on the trip to do that with. And as he's just dancing around trying to cheer himself up, he looks at a certain cabin and sees a person that seems to have blonde hair and a jet black leather jacket on go inside the cabin. So he goes and he walks into the cabin and see who this person is. Never seen that again. So then, later he oh, another thing I also forgot to say too. At some point in time, there's a scene where Alice is trying to get something from a dresser, but then there's a snake there, and she screams, and then I think Jack, Marcy, Brenda, and Bill come in. Bill is the one that comes in with the machete. Jack tries to scare it away out from underneath the bed, and in doing so, Bill decides to chomp down on the snake and kill it. Now, rumor is that was indeed a real snake they used. It wasn't a prop snake or anything like that. They actually killed the real snake. That's just rumors, because I don't remember specifically what the whole thing was. There was a debate for quite some time whether the snake was real or fake, but rumor was it was real, and they killed the snake, and a lot of animal activists really weren't appreciative of that in this film. So I forgot to mention that. But as far as going back to what happened with Ned, you don't see him again. In fact, when you do see him, you see him when Jack and Marcy are having sex underneath the bunk bed, and as I believe it's nighttime and it's thundering now, and as the lightning strikes, you see his dead body over the bunk bed, and his throat is slit. So when they're done having sex and Marcy goes to the bathroom, Jack is sitting there just playing around, and the next thing you know, you see the infamous arrow to the throat, head grasp kill that happens to him. Which again, this killer had to have been under that bed for an extremely long time. And then the next thing Marcy, I guess, thinks Jack's playing a prank on her because she hears noises. She goes and turns on the light, opens these like shower curtains, thinks that her imagination is playing tricks on her, only to turn around and get an axe to the face. So now Marcy's gone too. So that's 3 taken out so far. And then Brenda, after there's a scene where Brenda, Bill, and Alice are playing strip Monopoly, and Brenda stripped down their panties and bra, and instead of just staying the night with them because it's raining real hard and going back to her cabin in the morning, she says opts to go and take her raincoat and her clothes and run. To run to her cabin while getting drenched. Crazy. It just didn't make any sense. Then Steve, who we don't see for a good portion of the film time, we end up seeing him at a diner, and basically he tries to leave, and as he's leaving, his car becomes stuck, or I think gas ran out or something, so he ends up getting picked up by a cop. He ends up getting picked by a cop and gone on pursuit to Crystal Lake, right back to Crystal Lake. Brenda was going to read a book when she got back to her cabin to go to sleep and whatnot, but then this is probably the most creepiest part of this whole film. She's reading a book and she hears a child's voice pleading for help. Due to her better judgment, she goes out in the rain again and tries to investigate to see where this child is, and as she's running through the woods, the child is screaming help, and she ends up in a place where the arrow range was, and the camp lights just turn on her. The camp lights turn on her. Someone mysteriously turned on the lights, and then the next thing we see is her like jump in shock, and then it just switches scenes, so we never see her again. And the next time we do see her is when her body's thrown through a window and she's dead already. So Alice and Bill go to find the others, only to find out that a lot of things are wrong. The cars are not working, the power is off, and they even go into a cabin where they see an axe neatly tucked in asleep on top of a pillow as if it was a real child. That was pretty funny. So, let me see. Oh. Steve gets dropped off by the cop, only to seconds later, when he's walking past the Crystal Lake sign, to get stabbed by the main killer of the film. Then Bill goes to check on the generator to see if he can cut the power on, only to be found dead later when Alice goes to search for him. So now Bill is gone, right? And that's after Alice decides to go and make coffee, which takes up a whole scene too. After that, Alice runs back to the cabin and barricades the door, grabs a bat and a fork as a weapon, only to drop and abandon the weapons when Brenda's body's thrown through the window. It's like you arm yourself in defense, but then when you see another dead person through the window, you just decide to just abandon your only forms of defense. But anyways, Alice runs outside, who basically ends up running into Pamela, who arrives with her Jeep and stuff. And Pamela introduces herself and tells her all about, what she's about, essentially. Tells her that, well, I'm just a friend of the Christies, I came here, but then all of a sudden she just goes wacko, talks about her son, what happened to her son, why the counselors need to pay and all that, and she ends up going ballistic until she finally snaps and attacks Alice. And then she comes at Alice with a knife. So, basically Alice fights her off, runs out to the cabin, tries to go into the car that Pamela parked so she could escape from the car. But when she goes in there, she's Annie's throat slit, and when she runs away from the car, she sees Steve's body hung upside down on a tree with a knife in it, which I found funny because now that we know Pamela, who's this elderly lady that's the killer the whole time, I doubt she has the strength to hang an upside down grown man on a tree with a knife stuck in his chest. But I guess that's horror movie logic. So anyways, next thing after that is that Pamela corners Alice into a barn full of equipment where they have I remember the scene too. Like, she corners and they play it out like it's supposed to be a lot of tension. Like, you'll see Pamela's face and you'll see Alice's face. And oh, by the way, the whole time she's doing this, chasing after Alice, she's whispering, "Kill her, mommy. Kill her, mommy," as if Jason's speaking through her to go and kill these camp counselors. So that's a little creepy in itself. But she corners Alice just to finally get her hands on her and beat her down. But then Alice finds a way to counter, and it becomes like the whole exchange was like an even hand-to-hand exchange. Like, there was no, it almost seemed as if Pamela was just as weak as Alice, and this is supposed to be your main killer. Like, you know, Pamela slapped up a bit, but then I believe Alice, like, elbowed and knocked her out. So Alice runs. Then, oh, another thing I wanted to state, too. They actually put the camera on the dead bodies, like when Brenda's thrown through, or when you see Bill on the door with the arrows through him. You can see them twitching a little bit, which, hey, I guess that was good acting in 1980. Anyways, Alice is cornered once again as she tries to hide into a closet and lock the door. But Pamela is able to break through with a machete, only to be knocked out with a frying pan a second later. Like, this is supposed to be the main villain, and so far it looks like she could be handled as any other ordinary human would be able to be handled. You know, you come in there looking threatening with a machete, only for her to basically back you out with a frying pan. Okay, cool. Then Alice, after knocking her out, goes to the docks and attempts to leave through the boat, only for Pamela to catch up to her and put the beating on her until Alice was able to knock her off, regain herself, regain her balance, go pick up the machete that Pamela dropped. And when she turns around, it's that famous head decapitation scene that the film is known for. And by the way, when Pamela's hands come up to grasp for her head, those are actually Tom Savini's hands, not Pamela's hands. You can see the hair on the knuckles and the forearms and everything. So yes, those are man hands doing this. Those are man hands. But, anywho, so then that happens, and then it turns into morning, and you see Alice playing with the water, you hear this beautiful music, everything's fine until Jason, the boy that drowned in Crystal Lake all those years ago, comes up and takes Alice down into the water with him. Then she opens up in a hospital where there's cops there, like, basically trying to quell her. And she tries to make mention of this young boy that she saw that took her down, Jason or something like that. And the police say that they didn't find any boy or any body or anything like that. So then she says, well, then maybe he must be still out there. And the film ends on that point. So it goes to lead into the fact that possibly Jason's either a myth, it was all in her head, or maybe it really did happen, but he just disappeared like that. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, that was Friday the 13th. Pretty simple, pretty, I mean, I guess it might have been scary for its time. The point of the killer being the point of view killer, where you couldn't really see who the killer was until it was revealed at the end. And then the shock of that was Pamela Voorhees, the original actor Betsy Palmer didn't even want to do this film. She thought it was a piece of shit, and she looked at herself as a classy actor. But then when she needed the money for a new car and everything like that, she thought about it again, and she decided to take the film. Which, by the way, rest in peace, Betsy Palmer. Without you, this franchise probably wouldn't have went along as it did if it weren't for the interesting character that you played. So, yeah, there was that. The characters in this film were kind of like, they were okay, they were cool. I guess they were regular kids. I guess that was the goal. They acted like regular teenagers probably would. But it was just very, very slow burn for me. I didn't really get excited that much. I mean, I don't come back to this film. The only reason why I came back to this film is for this review. And even then, I'm just like, just watching the film. So, like, I had to rewind certain parts, certain times. Like, going forward, there's going to be a lot of films that I'm not going to need to watch just because it's already ingrained in here, because I've watched these Jason films hundreds of times. It's just that this happens to be one without Jason in it, really, so I'm kind of just like, hey, I'm good. I'm good. So anyways, Friday the 13th, the classic, obviously the influence it's had. If Halloween opened the doors to slashers, Friday the 13th knocked the doors off the hinges. So if I had to rate this 1 to 5, I guess critically acclaimed it'd be a 5 just because basically when it started. But for me personally, it's like a, kill me if you want, I think it's a 3.5. Again, if we're judging it based off critical acclaim and all that stuff for the horror genre, yeah, it's a 5 because it's a classic, and a lot of these films wouldn't take what they had if it wasn't for this film. But just me personally, me watching it, it's 3.5. It was just okay, nothing extravagant. It's like, okay, cool. That's basically it. I can't really put it into any more words than that, because if I tried, I'd just be trying too hard, and that's not necessary here. But yeah, guys, that was Friday the 13th again. This is actually my longest video ever, 25 minutes. But yeah, it's like 11:30 something, and I usually go to sleep by like 9:30. So yeah, if I'm very, very out of it at any point towards the end of the review, I apologize in advance. You know, it's just that I know I promised to get this out to you guys, and I wanted to get it over with. So hopefully I don't have to revisit watching that damn film first Friday. Just like... You know what I mean? So anyways, that's it. Next we'll be doing Friday the 13th Part 2, which will possibly be more fun, hopefully. I haven't reviewed that back in a while, neither. All I know is that it's Baghead Jason, and it's his first appearance. So until we review that film, you can like, you can comment. Subscriptions are earned, not asked for. So if you think I'm earning your that if I've earned your subscription, then fine. Go ahead and hit the notification bell as well while you're at it. But remember, guys, at the end of the day, stay well, stay blessed, and we will come back for Friday the 13th Part 2, the review. Until then, God bless you guys. Peace.